If you want to make a bustier, off-shoulder bustier with this perfect fit, then you should keep on watching this tutorial. In this tutorial, I'll be showing us how to draft a perfect off-shoulder bustier with the perfect fit and also some necessary measurements that you should take if you want to make your off-shoulder. So we're going to be going through all the process. This will be a very long tutorial. I'll be showing us the sewing process to get this perfect bust here. So please, if you're interested in learning how to make this, please continue to watch this tutorial. If you've not subscribed, please kindly subscribe, click on the notification bell to get notified. So now let's start the journey of making off-shoulder bustier. So to start off, you need two starting measurements apart from the normal measurements we're going to know on the course of the video. So you need your strap to strap. So you're going to place your tape measure just like how I'm placing it right on my chest here. You measure from one bar strap to another. That's one. Then the second one is your cleavage depth. So this measurement is how much you want to expose of your body. So just measure from your neck bone to wherever you want it to get to. So measure your clients or yourself if you want to do this. So right now I'm just going to use tape to tape down my pattern paper. Then I'm going to start off by ruling a line. I'll first rule a line. The pattern paper is not straight at the edge there, so I want to rule a line. So that line will be my start off point. So there, after that, the next thing I'll do is to measure my shoulder to bust point. Your shoulder to bust point is your shoulder to nipple. So for me, my shoulder to nipple is 11 inches. Then I'm going to measure my shoulder to under bust, which is 14, and shoulder to waist, which is 16 inches. I'm just going to square down the lines there, like so. So I'm just going to square down those lines like so. So I'm just going to label the first line will be BP, that's the bust point. The second one is the under bust, and the third one is the waist line. And from there, the next thing I'm going to measure is half of my shoulder measurement. My shoulder is 14 inches. So I'm going to mark half of it, which is 7 inches right there. And from where I mark the 7 inches, I'm going to come down by 1.5. That is the shoulder slope for the front. And from where I mark this 1.5, I'm going to mark my armhole. Your armhole length is calculated by dividing your bust by 6 plus 1.5. My bust is 36, so 36 divided by 6 is equal to 5.6 plus 1.5 equals to 7.1. That's what I mark. And I'm just going to square down that line. Square down that line, right chest line. So that is my chest line. So the next thing I'm going to mark on the chest line is the half of my shoulder measurement. My shoulder measurement is 14. 14 divided by 2 equals to 7. That's where I mark. And from there, I'm going to connect it straight to where we mark our shoulder slope. And right there, I'm going to mark a basic neckline of 3 inches. So I'll be doing 3 by 3. This is the basic neckline. If you're working with the plus size measurement, you can do 3. But this neckline, you can do 3.5. So from there, I'm just going to connect from the neckline straight to the shoulder slope like so. So just make your marking like that. So the next thing is to create the armhole curve. And for me, I'm just going to measure what I have there on the line. So that is about 7.1. So I'm going to divide that into 2. So you're going to find the midpoint there. So from where you mark the midpoint, you're going to go in by 0.75. This is for the front armhole. So you're going to mark that. So you're going to use your armhole curve, your curve ruler, to just connect. Just watch how I'm going to connect it to create the armhole curve like that. And that's going to just stand like so. So the next measurement I'm going to take now is how off I want my off shoulder to be. Or basically for off shoulder, you can start from 4 inches to 6, 7 or 8. But I'll be using 6 inches for mine. So you can do from between 4 to 8 inches. 8 might be too wide, but between 4, 5, 6 and 7 is fine. So I'll be using 6 inches for me. or you can do 8 too, depending on how off you want your shoulder to be. So medium is, the moderate one is 6, between 4 to 6, and extreme is like 7, 8. So now I'm going to mark that line and leave it like so. So the next thing I'm going to mark now is half of my bust span. My bust span is 7 inches. So I'm going to divide that by 2. My 7 divided by 2 equals to 3.5. So I'm going to mark 3.5 on the waistline. I'll mark the same thing on the under bust line and also on the bust point line. So that's what I'm going to mark like that. So I'm going to connect those lines together. So all those things that I've marked there, I'm still checking if I actually marked this right thing there. So I actually made a little mistake there, so I'm correcting it. I marked 4 before. So I'm connecting it. So that's 3.5 right there. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to come down by ½ inch from the bust point. So just going to connect up like that. So the next thing I'll do now is calculate the amount of that intake I will take. So now to get the amount of that intake you're going to minus your round underbelts from your bust circumference. My bust circumference is 34. So 34 minus 28 equals to 6. So that whatever you get, you're going to divide that by 2. So 6 divided by 2 equals to 3. So that means I will be taking 3 inches for my dart intake. Please calculate yours. So from the center front side, I will take 1 inch, and from the side front side, I will take 2 inches. That means whatever you get, you must take less on towards the side front and more towards the center front. You take less, and towards the side front you take more. So you're going to mark that and you connect it straight to your under bust like so. So make sure you calculate yours might be more than 3 or less than 3. So it might be 4, it might be 2. So whatever you have, take less towards the center front and more towards the side front. And like that, once you connect it to the under bust, take your curve ruler and connect to the point where you marked ½ inch from the bust point. So use your curve ruler like this and connect. So this method of that intake is really effective. It's going to create room for the breast, and it's going to just be standing. Like at the beginning of the video, I was not wearing bra in that dress there. It's because of this method that I use. So make sure you calculate yours. Yours might be less than 3 or more than 3. So whichever way, divide it unevenly. Like one side towards the center front should be less towards the side front. So the next thing I'll do now is to mark the midpoint from the shoulder line. So I'm going to check what I have there on my shoulder line there, where I'm placing my tape measure there. So whatever I have there, I'm going to divide it by 2. So I'll divide that by 2. So I'm going to mark on that point where I divide by 2. So I'll use my pencil to do this. So I'll just mark the middle point there. So you're going to find the midpoint there. I'm going to connect it straight to the line on your bust point. So you're going to connect it straight right there to the line on your bust point like so. And that is it. So you're going to connect it like that. I'm just trying to smoothen the line very well so you can see it. So the next thing is to take my dart on that point where I mark. So from the line we mark for the off shoulder, that line that is there, so I will be taking half of the dart intake that I took on the waist. So I took half on 1.5. So that means I take 0.75 on one side and 0.75 on the other side. And from the bust point, I come up by ½ inch. Then from where I do the 0.75 on both sides, I'm just going to connect it. You must use your curve ruler here, so you won't have any sharp edge there. So I use my curve ruler like that. So whatever your dart intake, so though this is not really like you should do between 1.5 to 2 inches, but I'm doing 1.5, but you can do 2 inches up here, 1 inch on one side and 1 inch on the other side, or you do 0.75 on one side and 0.75 on the other side. So now the next thing for me is to mark my circumference. So my bust circumference is 34. So 34 divided by 4 equals to 8.5. So I'll be taking 8.5. But you know, around the chest line there is a dart intake. The dart has taken some place there, so that means once you are measuring, you must remove this there. So I'm going to start measuring from the center, and I will stop at one of the dart leg, the first dart leg, and I'll just take my tape measure to the second dart leg, like so, in order to exclude the dart intake. If you don't remove the dart intake there, you're going to have shortage. So I'll remove the dart intake there, and I'll just continue what I'm measuring. So I'll take, so that means 8.5. I'm going to mark 8.5. Then I will add 2 inches for seam allowance. That's why I marked 10.5. So 8.5 plus 2 equals to 10.5. That's what I marked there. And on the underbust line, I've already taken in 3 inches for that. My round underbust is 28. So 28 divided by 4 equals to 7. Then I will add the 3 inches for that. That's 10. Then plus 2 inches for seam allowance. That's 12. My round underbust and waist is the same thing, so that's why I just mark the same thing on the waistline. Though not everybody have the same thing. Some people, their underbust might be smaller than their waist or bigger, so depending on yours, so make sure you use your measurements and connect like that. So once we take in the dart, the cup is going to protrude and the side is just going to push. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to input the strap to strap measurement. I told us to take the strap to strap measurement at the beginning of the tutorial. So now for your strap to strap measurement, my strap to strap measurement is 10. So I'm going to divide that by 2. So 10 divided by 2 equals to 5. So you need to take it on this line right here. So place your tape measure. You must skip the dart that we've taken in already. So you skipped one of the dart leg and you continue on the second dart leg. So whichever way you can do it, or you add the dart intake to it and just take it. So now I'm just going to be skipping from that. So I'll mark my 5 inches like so. So not 5, 10 divided by 2 equals to 5. So that means my new armhole is where the 5 is. So I'll mark it right there. So the next thing you're going to do is to create a new armhole. In order to create a new armhole, you're going to measure from the line. That line of armhole that we measured earlier. So you're going to measure what you have there. And for me, I have 7.1 there. So that 7.1, you're going to divide it by 2. So you're going to divide that 7.1 by 2. And from the line up there, this line that we marked that our off shoulder wants to start from, that's where you're going to mark what you have. So my 7.1 divided by 2 is around 3.55 thereabouts. So I'm going to mark that. And from where your measurement for strap to strap stop, that's where you're going to start the new line for the armhole. So now you're going to create a new armhole. And don't use the curvy part of your armhole. Use this part. Like the armhole for a off shoulder should not be curved. So it should just like not too straight but not too curved too. So just use this part and make this line. So I'll be using another marker in order to indicate the new armhole. And we really hope you understand this. If you do this, you won't have any kind of gaping for your armhole or tightness. This method reduces any kind of tightness or any opening around you. So the next measurement I'm taking now is our cleavage depth. The one that I mentioned earlier. The cleavage depth I use is 5 inches. You can do 6, you can do 7 or 4, depending on how deep you want your cleavage to open. So I mark the 5 inches, then connect it to the first dart leg on the chest there. So the next thing I'm taking right now is my bust dart. My bust dart is 2 inches. The length of your dart should be the difference between your front length and your back length. If you don't know how to take measurements, please watch the tutorial that will link in the comment section down below. This will enable you to understand the reason, and also the basic pattern drafting tutorials. You can watch those videos for you to understand why we are taking the bust dart. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut off my patterns right now. So before cutting, I'll first open my dart, close my dart and open some. For us to open the bust dart, like close the bust dart, you need to open the waist dart. So first open the waist dart like this, then you'll now be able to close your bust dart. So I'll just close off my bust dart like this. So if you're cutting and you've not cut through, you need to cut more again for you to be able to close your bust dart very well. The bust dart technique is popularized by Ellen Armstrong. You can check more on her. This method is really nice. I really love it. This method of pattern drafting. So I'm just going to close this one off. So that I know once you close your bust dart, there will be a kind of shift. So you don't need to panic, just blend it over. Just look at how I'm going to blend it again. So I'm going to blend it back. So just blend it back like so. And that's just simple. It's just that simple. So I'm just going to tape down my bust that I closed. So I want this tutorial to be really detailed, so I hope you're getting value in this tutorial. If you find it helpful, please let me know in the comment section. I would like to hear from you. If you've not subscribed at this point, please kindly subscribe. Your subscription will mean a lot to me and will encourage me to put out more valuable content on this channel. So now, on the chest line here, or the upper part here, I'm going to be closing the dart there. So now, if you're closing the dart there, one side will not be reaching the other, so you need to blend it. So I'm just blending it. So once you blend it, you're going to notice that one side will be shorter. So just connect it, and that's a new line for the second part here. This line has gotten longer, so I'm just going to go ahead and blend it in back. This is really essential so that when you are sewing, one part will not be shorter. So this is very, very important for you to do. So once you do this, you won't have any part shorter than the other. So right now, I'm just going to go ahead and cut through my patterns. I'm really not fast forwarding this so that we can see how we're cutting the patterns, so that you can follow suit very well. I hope we really get value in this tutorial, and I hope to see our practical. So if you use any of my tutorial to make a dress, please just send it to me in my DM on Instagram, or you can send it to my phone number on the screen. So you can contact me on the number on the screen right now. So just watch through how I'm cutting my pattern. So I want us to get how this is really done, the whole process. I really took my time for this, so I hope you let me know if you will enjoy this video. So this is all for the front pattern. So this is the pattern 1 and 2, and just like that. So this is all. Let's move on to cut the back pattern. So now this is for the back pattern. I have my pattern paper already on the table. So now I'm going to be marking 1 inch away. This 1 inch should serve as the zipper allowance, but I'll still be making alteration on this, so I'm just going to mark it away and leave it for now and continue to work on the rest of the pattern. So the first thing I'm going to mark is my shoulder to chest line. You can get to shoulder to chest line by just measuring your shoulder to chest line at the front pattern. So just measure. So for me, or you add up everything and you just measure. So for me, my shoulder to chest line is around 8.6. So measure that. And then my shoulder to waist. My shoulder to waist for the back is 14 inches. So that the 2 inch difference is what I take in as my bust dart intake. That's why I take 2 inches for my bust dart intake. So I label this is the chest line and the waist line. So the next I'm going to mark is half of my shoulder measurement. So away from this 1 inch that I marked for the zipper, that's where I'm going to start that. And I'll mark that the same thing to have my shoulder measurement on the chest line. So from there, from where I mark the half of the shoulder, I'll mark 1 inch for the shoulder slope. The shoulder slope for the back is 1 inch. Against the front, that is 1.5. There is difference. The back shoulder is not as deep as the front, so that's why the front is 1.5 and the back is 1. So now I'm going to mark the basic neckline of 3 by 1. We still not really need this, but we just need to do all this in order to get the perfect pattern that we need. So from the neckline, I'm going to connect to the shoulder slope that we do there. And the next thing is to measure whatever you have on this line here. So you divide it by 2. So after dividing it by 2, you're going to look for the midpoint. So dividing by 2 we get to the midpoint, and you're going to go in by 0.5. You know, for the front we go in by 0.75. So for the back we're going to go in by 0.5. So I'm just going to connect your armhole curve like so. That's simple. So the next thing I'm going to mark is half of my ball span. My ball span is 7, so 7 divided by 2 equals to 3.5. So I mark that on the waistline and also mark it on the chest line, and I'll connect the lines together like that. So I'll be taking a dart intake of 1 inch for the back. So this is the first dart. We're still going to be opening up the dart later. So I'm just going to take this basic darts first. So if you're working the plus size measurements, you can do 1.5 or 2 inches for your dart intake. So the next thing is, for the front, when we mark where our off shoulders will start, we mark 6 inches. So that 6 inches, we're going to mark it at the back too. This is important. So mark it and just square down the line like so. So the next thing is, I'm going to open up the dart leg by half inch. So connect the line of the dart and mark half inch on both sides like this. So half inch is just to create the kind of dart at the back there. You can do 0.25 or do half inch on both sides. It's just perfect. So the next thing I'll be taking is my back dart. This back dart eliminates any kind of puffy or folding at the back. So I'm just going to be taking half inch, but for some people, so also bigger sizes, you can do 0.75 or 1 inch. So after taking in the dart intake already, you know that our length has reduced on that side. So that means once I'm taking my measurements for the bust circumference, I'll be starting on the second line, the new line that we marked now, not from the first line, because that will be cut away. So now I will take half of my bust span, cut out my bust span. My bust span is my round bust, is 34. So 34 divided by 4 equals to 8.5, and that's what I mark right there. And on the waist too, I'll mark half on quarter of my waist circumference. My waist circumference is 28, so 20 divided by 4 equals to 7, and I just marked that, and I added the 1 inch for that I take. So that means I mark 8 right there. So I didn't add allowance on this pattern because the pattern paper is not enough. So the next measurements I'll be taking now is the strap to strap measurements. Make sure you start from the second dart, like from the second line there. So my strap to strap is 10 divided by 2 equals to 5. So I'm just marking 5, skipping the dart. Please make sure you skip the dart intake right there. So just like we did for the front, you're going to measure what you use. You don't need to measure on this second line. On this line, use what you use for the front. For the front I use 3.55, so that is exactly what I'm going to mark here. Don't bother to measure here. Whatever you use for the front is what you're going to use for the back. So create your new armhole by marking what you use for the front, connect and use your curve ruler to make your new armhole. I hope you understand this. So don't measure again. Whatever I use for the front is what I'm going to use for the back right here. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to mark my zipper allowance. I marked 1 inch off before, but now we add new space now because of the darts for the back that we're going to be taking off. So right now from the waist here, I'm going to start my dart intake from this second line, the line that I'll mark for the dart. That's where you're going to start from in order to create the back sway. That means your zipper line will not be straight. I mark 1 inch for my zipper allowance, so I'm just going to follow the lines from up to the down like so. So I'm just going to do that and mark it. So this is my zipper allowance for the back. So right now, this is all. So right now I'm just going to be creating the kind of back that I want. So you can create any kind of style at the back. You can make it straight like this, or you make it curved, but I want it to be curved. So I mark 8 inches for the deep of the back. I want the back to be deep at 8 inches. So I mark 8 inches right there. I'm just going to use my pattern master to make a curve like so. You can make yours 4 corner or straight or like this. So depending on how deep you want your back to be, you can use 5 or 6 or 7, depending on how much you want to expose your back. So right now, the next thing for me is to fold in the back dart. This part here, we've taken in some down. Can you see that once I fold it in, one part is shorter, so that means I need to smoothen it back from the line that I created for the deepness of my mark. One back is shorter, so that means I'm going to smoothen it back. You need to do this, because if you don't do this, once you are sewing, one part will be shorter, just like we did for the front. You're going to do that the same thing at the back. This is very, very important. That is why it is said that pattern drafting is accurate. A lot of things that might cause problem later would have been corrected on the pattern paper. So to avoid shortness, make sure you do this. Then the next thing I'm doing now is just cutting off my patterns. So this is the center back and this is the side back. So I'm just cutting off away the dart intake, and this is it for my pattern for the back. So that's so simple. It may not be really simple if you've not been doing this, but if you practice over time, this is going to be very simple for you. So right now I'm going to label this. So this part is the zipper allowance for me. So I mark that zipper allowance, and so that's my zipper allowance for this back there. So here are my patterns for both the front and the back, and I'm going to be labeling this. This side is a center back, that's why I write CB, side back SB, center front CF, and side front SF. So you're going to cut 2 pieces for the side front, center back, and center back, side front, center back, side back. And for the center front, you're going to cut on fold, and that is it. So that's how you're going to do for this pattern. So I'll be placing this on my fabric and cutting it. So I'll be placing on fabric and cutting. So I'll place this on fabric. So for this side where you see the blue chalk, you're going to add half inch round. The half inch is for joining allowance around there. So I'll add half inch to the center front, to the side front, all the way at the armhole area. I think we need know where to add the other. So for the back, I didn't add seam allowance on the pattern, so that means on the fabric here I'll be adding my seam allowance. So the only place I'll add the seam allowance is towards the side. The center back there I only add half inch for my seam allowance there. So add your necessary allowance there and just do your stuff like that. So this is all for the pattern drafting and the fabric cutting. So in the next tutorial, that is where we're going to be sewing this together. So make sure to subscribe so that I can get notification when I'm going to upload that video. The video is going to come up right next after this anyway. So if you watch this the day this was published, that means the following day you're going to watch the sewing tutorial. I'm going to take you from this. I've sewn it together here. Can you see how the cup is standing? So beautiful. I will even show you the inside. If you make your pattern like this, following the step, you're going to have a deep cup that you won't even need to wear bra when you're wearing this. So I'll be showing you the whole process. So make sure to subscribe, click on the notification bell so that I can get notified whenever I upload the new tutorials, and there will be still more awesome tutorial on this content on this channel. So thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate you. Please like, comment, and also share this video. So until my next tutorial, bye.